Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic Podcast. I am Gabriel Fast. I am one of your hosts. And joining me are some of my brothers in crime, my fellow wannabes, my fellow hosts of the Wannabe Critic Podcast. We have one Caleb Henley, we have one Rex Tucker, and we have one Ryan Dalton. Caleb, how are you feeling?
I'm good, man. This is gonna be a good show. I can feel it.
I can feel it. I'm like, it's, what do they say in football? Like, you can feel it in the air tonight, Jim. It is gonna be a good one. You know what I mean? Like that type of vibes going on. Rex, how are you feeling?
Feeling great. Ready to do this.
Rex,
this is, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love every single show. Like, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Rex just brings, like, Rex is the resident chill guy. You know what I mean? And he just brings it to the table every time, always consistent. And I love it. I love it so much. Like, it's great. I love you. Can I say that? I love you, Rex. You're the best.
Appreciate it, Gabe.
Although this week Rex is dressed like he's going to drop a really hot mixtape at the end of the episodes.
Yeah, or he's about to go sing lead vocals for Blink-182 or something. But yeah, no, Rex.
I like I could do both.
You probably could. I interrupted you though before. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that Mission Impossible is one of my favorite like series of a movie. What's it called? I just lost the word.
Not like series.
Franchise, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm definitely excited to hear your takes more than everyone else's. Ryan, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm great. I've been storing up all my nerd energy for the show, and yeah, I'm ready.
Are you pretty big? Hey, wait a minute. What the heck is going on with your background?
Oh, I have a guest as well. Do you want to meet him?
Sure. What is it?
Say hi, other Gabe.
Oh my god.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Actually, it took me a while to notice that was your
Ryan was the first one in the Zoom meeting tonight, and I was like, what is the meaning of this? Like
I wanted you to feel like you'd stepped in the twilight zone. You're like, wait, how can you be in my recording room? I'm in my recording room.
I felt a little like a little weird underneath my skin, because I was like, how did he do that? You know what I mean? But you kind of, what happened? Explain the story.
Well, on another episode, you had an internet thing and you froze with this awesome expression on your face. And I thought, I'm getting a screenshot of that, and that's going to be my wallpaper on one of these other shows. So I've been planning this for weeks.
You know what it looks like? It looks like it's like a TV promo for like WWE, and it's like, Hulk Hogan's going to get you, boys. Don't you ever like mess with the wheeling dealing, like, tri-state champ. That's what it is. It's a wrestling promo, call out basically. Oh my gosh, I'm already excited for where the show's going right now. Really fast. It's like we're gonna start off the show off with a new ritual, right? And it's gonna be called "What's Everyone Drinking?" I'll go first. As you know, I always have 2 or 3 beverages, at least 2 beverages with me whenever I do a show. First and foremost, you gotta get the Wawa. You know what I mean? So you got the Wawa, and I have a beautiful new PlayStation water bottle that I got because I'm a pony and I don't even care. Also, it wouldn't be a podcast without some delicious natural light. So there's that. It's almost gone. That's okay though. And I had a long day today, so I'm rocking some coffee as well. Now we're gonna play another game called How Long Until I Die, because those 2 beverages mixed together. I don't know. But Caleb, what are you drinking?
Well, not nearly as much as you are. I have a Sarnak Irish Red beer. It's pretty generic and simple and easy, so it's good though. I like it.
I love Irish Reds. Killian's Irish Red. It's good beer. Rex,
yeah, it's good.
Rex, what are you drinking?
I got some Fentimans Curiosity Cola. It's like a fancy Coke.
Cool. Does it taste better than Coke?
Yeah, like in my opinion, but I don't think everyone would say that. It's got like fermented ginger and herbal extracts. It's a bit less sugar. And then I got some sparkly water.
healthy boy over here. Of course, Rex has to be, ahead of us all in health because he lives in California.
Did you get that soda from a peddler who rolled through town on a wagon?
He was also selling snake oil.
You know what's funny?
Was that a miracle cure?
You know what's funny is I got it actually when I lived in Missouri. I used to get this.
You got it from the Amish, didn't you? It's probably what it was. They were selling it on the back.
I'm
of a
glad to
crate.
know we
Amish
could. I'm glad to know we could find it here because I've had the worst case of scurvy and I could really use a miracle cure. And I think I'm gonna go look for that.
You know, you hate now, but once you taste it, your mind will be changed.
No, I'm actually all about like local drinks and stuff that you can't find everywhere. Those are usually the best tasting ones.
Yeah, I agree. And this one's more like for mixing drinks and stuff. And I don't know, it's a little expensive, but I like it.
You know what I had earlier today while we're on the topic of Coke? I had some have you tried this new internet sensation, Coke with coffee? Have you had this? Have you seen this?
I've seen it and thought, why is this a thing that exists?
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rex.
I just said I don't think I've seen it.
So I was a naysayer at first because like Coke tried to come out with like this new energy drink last year, Coke Energy, and it was pretty good. I was a fan. Emma's not crazy about the Coke with coffee, but I got one can, and that's all it took. I now have a case of Coke with coffee in my room right now because it was just the mix up that I needed in my life at that moment. So it's worth trying. At least you got to at least give it a try. I think it's pretty good. So
Is it just made by Coke? It's like a little can.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just
I
made by
have seen
Coke.
that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. There's a vanilla, a caramel, a sugar-free, and like a dark roast. So if you see one, the dark roast is probably my favorite. So I would try that. I would definitely try that one. Ryan, what are you drinking?
Well, that just reminded me, and I don't have it with me now, but it's in my fridge. I have a bottle of espresso Jameson or coffee Jameson, like Irish whiskey and coffee, and that is delicious, especially if you mix it with a little bit of half and half and simple syrup. That's like a grown-up delight.
Yeah, it's like dessert in a glass.
Yeah. Tonight I'm just being super basic. I have water and I have a lovely vintage of Coke Zero in this artisanal can that I'm enjoying.
Nice. So are you a Diet Coke man more than a Coke Zero man?
I think Coke Zero tastes better.
I think you're right.
I do too.
I think you're right. But it's just something about the addictiveness. They put an addictive chemical in the Diet Coke that makes me just crave it. Like once I get started, I can't stop. You hate Diet Coke?
I can't stand Diet Coke. Oh.
Yeah, I think it tastes disgusting.
Oh man, I just in my life, Diet Coke is all I have to say. And I guess this proves Mikey right. Mikey's not here tonight because he's a chump. I guess Coke is better than Pepsi, ladies and gentlemen, officially. So we can stop with the joke at the end of the show. You know what I mean? You don't have to expect it anymore. Even though it'll probably slip in. You know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. No promises. No promises. No one listens to me anyway. Anyways, well, now that we've talked about what we're drinking, we're ready to go. We're ready to do the thing. Before we get into the meat of the show, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Mission Impossible, as you could tell by the title. Starting a new movie series. I'm super duper excited. We just finished X-Men. Thank God. Ryan, Ryan didn't even show up for the past two because of reasons.
Lucky
you
him.
know. I mean, I do have to apologize because like last week, we just straight up didn't even talk about the movie. Like we gave a synopsis and then we talked about everything we hated about it. There's just not a lot to say. So we're happy to move on to the Mission Impossible series. And what's even better is we put the poll out on Twitter, right? And like, the part of the audience that is on Twitter voted for Mission Impossible. So guess what? That's what we're doing. And it's going to be great. We have plans though for new things in the future. So stay tuned because we're going to be shaking it up. We're going to be shaking up your world on the Wannabe Critic podcast. So there's that. Also, Really fast, before we kind of do a little bit of a catch up and before we talk about a little bit of news and we talk about our movie, we want to give a shout out to our Patreon producers for the month of March. We have Zoe Chanel, Emma Fast, Luke Collins, and HH Waxbar. Thank you guys so much. If you want to go over to patreon.com/wannabecritic, just like those 4 people did, and get your name at the producer level, of course, you don't have to do that, but you can if you want to. There's several tiers. We have a general support tier. We have a early access tier. We have a request tier, and then we have the producer tier. So those are the 4 things we have going at this moment. There are plans to add more things in the future. So, definitely check that out if that's something that you're interested in. But if not, I'm just happy you're here. Honestly, like that's all I could ever ask for, is that you keep listening to the show, because that's what it's about. It's about entertaining you, and we want to hear back. We want to hear feedback from you. So make sure you let us know how we're doing on Twitter. Make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you can. Basically, I need to know how you feel about it. Okay, that's just how it is. Also, big shouts to Pop Cult USA. There's a code down in there. They send me dope stuff. They send me dope shirts. That funny, cowbell t-shirt that I have. It's like the, likeness of Will Ferrell. They also sent me this Miller Lite hat. I'm a fan of natural light. They sent me that hat too. They need to start sending you guys stuff. You know what I mean? Somehow we need to figure a way for that to happen. They'll probably say no, but we'll figure it out. And
we all need a catchphrase first, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Also, I don't have any Raise Energy. I bought a case of Raise Energy, and I drank it all within the past couple weeks. It is delicious, and there's a code for that down there too. Big news. There's going to be a new one at some point, and I'm just waiting back to hear on a couple of emails, and it's going to be dope. You're not ready. I'm really, really happy for this one. So we'll see what happens. But now that we got all the plugs out of the way, now we can get onto the stuff that you actually want to hear us talk about, which is really at first what we've been up to. So Caleb, I'm going to throw it to you first, my friend, my brother from another mother. Caleb, what have you been up to?
Not much, really. Still breaking into PS5, having fun with that. Still playing through Miles Morales because it takes me forever to play through games.
When did you get one?
Like 2 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah,
Nice.
Pretty recently. Yeah, it was a process to get my hands on one, but it's worth it. It was worth the wait, and I'm having fun with it. And
I really like the design and the UI.
yeah, it's cool. It's very well set up, and I don't know, it just feels right. So yeah, I'm still enjoying that, and that's basically it. I'm still reading through the new Thrawn trilogy. I'm about done with the second book. So still enjoying that, but it takes me forever to read too. So it's a process. And that's basically it. I mean, nothing too crazy.
Well, look at, Caleb's like Old Faithful. You know what I mean? It's always the same story. He has the same thing to say for 5 weeks in a row, and then something changes, and I'm always excited to hear about it. Be on the lookout too for Miles Morales review for Game Club. That'll be incoming in the next, I don't know, whenever Caleb finishes it, basically. So there's that. Rex, what have you been up to, bro?
I've just been busy, very busy. I've been getting back into card games like Hearthstone and the League of Legends one. It's called Legends of Runeterra, and every once in a while I get back into them just because they're so relaxing. You can just sit there and just play while you're watching TV or something, and you don't have to think too much. And even Slay the Spire, it's a really good one too. That's more of a deck building game, but yeah, I've just been into those lately. Of course, I always play Rocket League a little bit. I won a little. They do have these pre-made tournaments in game where you can sign up on Rocket League, and I finally won one. That was in my division or whatever. So that was cool.
That's cool. We officially have an esports player.
Price?
It's just cosmetic prize, in-game cosmetics.
Still though,
That's still pretty cool. Yeah.
it's like an NFT. You can only get it through one way. You know what I mean? That's cool though. You looks like, were you settled in the last time we sat down to do a podcast?
I was halfway settled in. I just got a new desk in today, so I put that together, and that's why I was a little running behind. But yeah, we're getting there. We're probably 90%.
Nice. That's always a good feeling, whenever you're getting close to being moved in. It feels like not too long ago, like whenever me and Emma moved here, like even before I got all of this crap in here, it was still a process for it felt like forever. It took us forever to get
Yeah.
fully moved in. So I feel your
I
pain.
feel the same way. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I had to get a bigger desk because I realized the desk I had before, because before I had it in my bedroom, and now that I have my own little room, I had to upgrade. So
Yeah. Well,
got a new desk. Super stoked. Yeah.
Good on you. Let us know when the album drops too, Rex. No, I'm just kidding.
So follow me on TikTok.
Yeah, there you go. Caleb, were you trying to say something? I'm sorry, I feel like I missed you.
When you said NFT, it just made me think we should buy packs of Top Shot and open them up on the show for people to listen to, see if we can make any money.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I'm down. I'll pitch in. Your Patreon dollars are going into NFTs, ladies and gentlemen.
NFTs.
Yeah.
You're gonna be rich.
That is, I was talking about that to someone the other day about the idea of an NFT. And whenever you think about it, it's actually a genius idea. And I think it's going to be probably pretty huge. I mean, Kings of Leon actually just said that they're releasing a version of their album as an NFT, basically.
Well, didn't one sell today for $60 some million?
It was
Yeah, it was the past week, right? I heard about it.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, Grimes made $6 million off of selling NFTs. It's just kind of go ahead.
No, it's just crazy. It's crazy to me how much money is in it. Because the first I heard about it was, the Top Shot, the NBA, they're basically GIFs that people are selling.
Yeah.
And some of them, I mean, there's a lot of them that are going for hundreds, thousands, but you get, a clip. It could be like a LeBron James dunk or block or whatever. And they're going, a LeBron James one go for $200,000 or something ridiculous. It's just insane. It's just it's like a GIF. It's crazy.
It's I think someone put it pretty good too. It's like a painting always holds its value. Like a famous painting, like the Mona Lisa is always going to be worth X amount of dollars, most likely. So it's kind of like a similar idea of if there's only a certain amount in circulation and that's it, you know what I mean? It's always going to hold that value.
Yeah.
Which go ahead.
The weird thing about it though is anyone can get a copy of it,
Yeah.
So it's you're paying for, it's just you have the rights, I guess, or you're the person that bought that, virtual image, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is super interesting. First it was Bitcoin, then it was Dogecoin, now it's NFTs, ladies and gentlemen. What is freaking happening? You know what I mean? Ryan, can you cure this madness and let us know what you've been up to?
I'll just bring a different madness. I've been quite busy. I picked up Destiny 2 again after not playing it for a long time.
Eyes up, Guardian. Yeah.
And boy, I gotta say that game has really matured.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a week ago, I thought, I'm looking to go back to something I haven't played in a long time, and I was very pleased to go back to that. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. I am about 2/3 of the way through the latest Stormlight Archives book. Those books are huge, so it always it's nice to kind of immerse yourself in those. They're big, grand, epic fantasy.
Would you recommend them?
Stormlight Archives, it's an excellent series. Yeah.
Is that Sanderson?
Yeah. That is Sanderson. That's that's his big series.
Right.
It's been on my list for years, and I'm just I feel like it's such a big task.
Is that the Way of Kings series? Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and they're excellent books, but yeah, they are massive. So they're an investment for sure. But yeah, I really enjoy them. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. I pitched something to Marvel on Twitter. They didn't respond, which I didn't expect.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Oh, okay. We lost you for a second. You didn't expect anything back. Sorry, we lost you for just a split second.
Oh, sorry, guys. You know what? Let me take a second to switch to my strong Wi-Fi.
Your 5G.
I have essentially two Wi-Fi networks. I have the one that gets piped into the house, and then we use these like kind of conditioner machines that make the signal better. So I was logged into the not better signal. Okay, all right. So yeah, it was more just for fun, and it kind of branched out from a discussion I was having with a couple of fellow nerds on Twitter, and because there were these shots that I guess are kind of like spy shots someone got of Natalie Portman on the Thor set, like
With
looking totally jacked.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was saying, hey, you know, it makes sense. She's training for God of Thunder powers and all of that, and I mentioned to someone that all we need now is to bring Betty Ross back, because who doesn't love Liv Tyler? And I mentioned to a friend they could just make her Red Hulk, and we could, you know, have a whole thing where old characters come back and kind of take on new mantles. And they liked that idea, and they were like, "You should pitch that to Marvel." And I said, "Okay, I will." And so I did, and nothing happened, but it was still fun to pitch it.
You have this, you probably have like a psycho ex-girlfriend like mentality with Marvel, and you're like, you're just playing, like you're such a kidder, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Marvel never responding to my tweets. They're so cute.
I'm gonna get you one day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool though.
But anyway, that was fun. I'm drafting a new novel, which is fun. I don't think I had started drafting it last time I was with you guys. I think I was just kind of outlining it. So I'm deep into that, which is cool. And my agent is currently shopping the novel that I finished late last year. And so, yeah, the wheels are turning.
That's awesome. That is way busier than anything we've been up to. So, you know,
I also threw some shade at BioWare on Twitter for abandoning Anthem. So,
dude,
I'm not usually a shade thrower on Twitter. I usually like trying to be, you know, pretty upbeat and positive, but that really annoyed me. So I mean, I had to talk about that.
You have been on Game Club too and said, well, at least I only paid $10, but it sucks because it was an interesting idea. I was looking forward to the revamp as well. It seemed like a really good idea. But with the news about EA kind of like relinquishing, you know, control, so to speak, over games moving forward, I would much rather have Mass Effect like awesome again, than like focus on something completely new that maybe not everyone's on board with.
I get it, but to me, it's breaking a promise that you made to the people who paid full price for the. Yeah. It's like, no, okay, it's true. They promised a great game and it sucked, and then they said, "Don't worry, we'll fix it," and then they waited 2 years and were like, "Yeah, we're not doing that either." But but it was like, okay, so they essentially conned you out of your cash. It makes me not want to buy any BioWare games anymore until they actually back up what they're making. Yeah,
no, it's true. Go ahead, Rex.
Also, that just really makes me like never want to pre-order a game, you know?
Ever. Well, now that most of them are digital, there is literally no reason to ever pre-order anything, because the pre-orders used to be, or reserve your copy, because we only have so many, but now the copies are infinite, but yet they still push pre-orders because they know it doesn't matter if the game sucks, they're still going to meet their bottom line. So I never pre-order.
And it's bad for just, it's a bad thing to do. Like, you shouldn't pre-order things is what people say, because it just creates a bad dynamic where
you should pre-order books. You shouldn't pre-order games. Right. He said, not selfishly at all. Yeah. No, pre-ordering books actually helps authors out a lot. But that said, if money is tight and you're waiting to see if a book is good, obviously don't pre-order. But
we'll drop the link, Ryan. I'll pre-order it right now.
Drop the link. If we were on Twitch, I'd be like, you know what, just drop that link in chat.
Right. My next book is not up for pre-order yet, but
too bad.
I will let you guys know. I'll let you guys know what it is.
Gotcha.
How much for the alpha? How much for the alpha?
Right, yeah, exactly.
How much for beta access, bro? I'll do whatever I have to to.
For a certain amount of money, you can call me and I'll read it to you.
Yeah, I'll read you a chapter. Yeah.
Oh man.
Exactly. Well, it is kind of one of the, I mean, look at two big games, right? So you had, let's talk about the three ones really fast. Okay. Three big failures, in my opinion. Marvel's Avengers, okay, is the most recent one. Cyberpunk 2077, what the heck? And then also Anthem. You know, those are three that come to mind where it's like, good Lord, like
Fallout 76. I'll put that number 4.
But they've had a good redemption arc, though. I mean, they have, but in the beginning, they have. I would say they have for sure. With the new Brotherhood of Steel expansions and stuff like that. I think it's better. It's a way better redemption story than those other 3 games we just talked about. Go ahead, Caleb.
There's a lot of games though that could fall into that category and have been redeemed. I mean, like No Man's Sky.
True.
You could say like both Battlefront games that came out, both weren't great, and then they had to revamp those a lot. Man, there's even like Destiny did not have great reviews when it first came out, and they pumped tons and tons of time and energy and money into that and made it what it is today. But that's just kind of a common thing. And this is all coming from the guy who recently pre-ordered a game because he was just so excited about it. So, I mean, I'm kind of a chump, but but also it's a sports game and I'm pretty sure I know what I'm getting. But yeah, when you have a title that, you know, it's basically all off of hype. Yeah, you're probably going to be disappointed. There's going to be some like aspect of it that's probably going to fail.
Yeah, that's true. You hype yourself up. Go ahead, Rex.
I was just going to say that I feel like EA in general has bounced back quite a bit from all that hate and just feedback that they got from Battlefront. So I've been pretty excited about a lot of their, newer games that they're going to be releasing. And also another game that died was Valve had a card game called Artifact, and they just recently pulled the plug on that. So not really a well-known game, but they just completely took everything out of that game. So that was kind of disappointing.
Long story short, just don't pre-order a game unless it's Mario Golf, is all I have to say. Go ahead, Ryan.
Or MLB The Show 21.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Ryan.
Going along with what Rex said, to say something nice, whatever team did Squadrons, I would like to shake their hands because that is an awesome game. It is so much fun. It's a very focused game. There's not a lot of extra bells and whistles, but I think that's good because it's a smaller game. They could just make it this little niche thing, and I have a ball with it, especially playing it on the VR and everything. It's a total blast. So,
and they added some stuff for free too.
Yeah, now I've been away from it from a little bit. I got to go back and see what they put in, but yeah, I was very impressed with that, and that to me feels like it felt like one of the old LucasArts games, which was really, really a pleasant surprise.
Well, there you have it. If we're making any LucasArts fans mad, just throw the hate speech at Ryan, okay? Not us. We'd appreciate it. That's enough mumbo jumbo. That's a good primer. You know what I mean for the main show. We just have a spot of news here. It's still kind of gaming related, and on the topic of Bethesda. See how we segued that just then. Bethesda, as of yesterday, is officially joined the Xbox family as being acquired by Xbox. So your Elder Scrolls, your Fallout, your Wolfensteins, your pretty much everything that falls under ZeniMax Media, which there's a lot of studios in there. I mean, there's a lot. Even the smart ones. It sounds like it's going to end up being exclusive, for the most part, to Xbox. So we'll see.
That's what I was going to say. Is that going to be so no Sony for Elder Scrolls?
Here's the thing. The goal is to get people to sub to Game Pass. And if you have umptillion ways for them to subscribe to Game Pass, someone's like, well, I don't want to buy an Xbox. It's like, okay, well, you can get Game Pass on your phone if you want to play the new Elder Scrolls. You can also get it. I would be shocked if there isn't like a smart app coming out at some point or some way to, have easy access to Xbox Game Pass pretty much everywhere. Wouldn't surprise me. Like essentially like a Roku streaming app inside your TV would make sense. I think that's kind of their strategy, is to make it to where they don't necessarily have to get you to buy an Xbox to play those games. But if they did, guess what? There's a $200 Xbox or a $300 Xbox you can buy. That's the cheap model that you can play those games on. It's a super smart strategy. And the biggest thing that we as gamers end up saying about Xbox is they don't have any exclusives. Well, guess what? They do now. They got a bunch. I mean, they got a ton. So as of right now, I mean, it looks like, I mean, we'll see if they put their money where their mouth is whenever Elder Scrolls 6 rolls around, because that would be insane if it's only on Xbox. So
yeah, that'd be a big deal.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Ryan, do you got anything to add to that?
No, I just think it's interesting to see like how all the gaming ecosystems are evolving, and I do think you're right in that Microsoft is trying to go to where the actual hardware you have isn't as important. Essentially, it seems like they're trying to do what Google couldn't with Stadia.
Yeah.
I think, make games like more of a whole subscription service. I'll be curious, like, 5-10 years down the road, if that does to games what streaming services have done to TV and movies, kind of changing the industry and how things are made. And yeah, it's just interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's anyone that could make it absolutely as easy as possible to get you to sub to Game Pass, if there was a company that could put enough money into doing that, it would be Microsoft. So I think their goal of Game Pass, which when you think about it, Game Pass has only been around for what, like 3 years at this point. And it's changed everything. It is going to be, it's the best value in gaming. It continues to be a staple in kind of the pushing forward point, the innovation of the industry, like Ryan was saying. And it'll be interesting to see how everyone else like Nintendo and PlayStation kind of answers that. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm happy either way. It's interesting. I have access to it all. So it doesn't really matter that much to me, so I don't know. It is nothing. Xbox acquiring Bethesda for me doesn't really change anything. It's cool. I mean, I don't know. It like you said, it's interesting. But other than that, was there any news beats that you guys saw this week? Anything that was interesting to you that you wanted to bring out?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really a ton that I saw. I've been trying to get off Twitter a little bit more, like, spend less time there and just more time like focused on things I actually like to do. Twitter's like its own job in of itself. Like you could be on there all day, be tweeting, sending out tweets like to DMs and stuff like that.
It's social media in general.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it is what it is. It's
like
job.
An MMO that never ends.
Exactly. And there's no problem. It's like an MMO that never ends and you never get anything back. Like you never get any good loot. It's all gray. It's all gray loot. Okay, now we move on to the main event, gentlemen and listeners. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to talk about Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible was released in 1996. It is, of course, turned into a huge franchise over the past, I mean, good Lord, 20, not 20 years, but no.
25 years.
25 years this year.
That's even more. That's crazy. Stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. He is the central figure, but some more, some big names that are also in this first movie are John Voight and Ving Rhames, as well as Jean Reno, right? Yeah. And that's about it. IMDb lists the synopsis as an American agent under false suspicion of disloyalty must discover and expose the real spy without the help of his organization. Caleb, since you're kind of like the resident good explainer, can you verify that that's actually what this movie is about?
Yeah. You want me to do like a summary?
Yeah, do it. Yeah, give us the wannabe summary. We don't want to do it.
Oh, geez. Spoilers are like no spoilers.
You can, know what? It's the movie. The movie came out.
The movie's 25 years old.
25 years old. Just spoil.
Okay.
Just do the thing.
Cool. So Tom Cruise is the point man for a IMF like team. And so they do all these impossible missions. John Voight is the leader of this team. They're going, basically, they get tasked to go and take down this guy who is trying to steal a list, basically that has all the, real names of all these undercover agents. It's called the knock list. So they go and they try to steal that list, and things go very bad. Each person on the team gets picked off one by one to where eventually Tom Cruise is the only guy that's left. They lose the list. The list basically is going to go to an arms dealer named Max. Tom Cruise is very traumatized because he's lost his entire team. He basically goes in back to IMF, and they basically tell him that the whole thing was a mole hunt, that the list wasn't genuine, that it was all a trap, and they were just trying to figure out who the double agent was that was going to be stealing the list and delivering it to Max. And because Tom Cruise is the only agent that's left alive, that means that he must be the double agent. So then Tom Cruise escapes. He goes on the run. He's trying to figure out, well, he knows that he's not the double agent. So who really is? He runs into one of his teammates, who was John Voight's wife. He's immediately suspicious of her. But because she's a female and she's pretty, he kind of dismisses that she was behind any of it. And he decides, well, I've got to, figure out who the bad guy, the actual double agent is. I got to figure out who this is. So he starts kind of posing as a double agent himself. He makes his way in. He's able to talk to the arms dealer, talk to Max. And he tells her that, hey, the list that you have that was delivered to you is not real, but I can get you the real list, which he then develops a little team, which is him, two other guys, and then his former teammate, the wife of John Voight. And they go in, they steal the actual knock list, and they basically then have to figure out, they're still trying to figure it out. They think, man, I'm doing such a bad job at this. If
No, you're doing good. You're fine.
This movie is there's so much because there's so many twists and turns in this movies. Okay,
you got
so
this.
From
Caleb,
there.
pull yourself together. God,
You should give Caleb all the Mission Impossible.
oh yeah, from now on, Caleb is the resident explainer.
We're not even gonna critique the movie. We're just gonna sit here while you try to tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Okay, from there, he's going to give the list to Max. In return, Max is going to reveal who the actual double agent is. And then Tom Cruise has got to figure out a way to basically both take out the double agent and bring in Max. And then things start to go very, very wrong for Tom Cruise. Finds out that John Voight is still alive. Tom Cruise pieces together that he's the double agent. He is not aware that his wife has also been working alongside him and is also a double agent. Basically, they hand it off to Max. The only guy that basically has Tom Cruise's back at this point is Ving Rhames. This whole kind of fight ensues on the train where everyone's kind of turning on each other. He's able to take out John Voight and the people that were helping him. John Voight kills his wife, so that's a loose end that gets tied up. And Max is not able to escape the train with the knock list. Ving Rhames is kind of able to stop her and lead the main big IMF boss guy to her. And she gets arrested on the train as well. And it all ends up good, I guess. I don't know. That was rough. It's a pretty complicated movie. I've seen this movie multiple times, and I don't even think I really fully understood the plot of this movie until I watched it this time with a very critical eye to it. So
Dude, just same.
Wait, like the fifth one. It's really confusing.
Dude, same over here though. I was like, good God, like no wonder this movie never made any freaking sense to me whenever I was a kid. Like the knock list and all this other stuff. I think you did a good job. You got all the details in there. You know what I mean? And I'm proud of you. I'm happy you did that. But yeah, from now on, you better have the best way to say what happens in the movie. No, I'm just kidding. But really.
Just wait until we do the next one, which I've only seen once, and I have no clue what happens in that movie. So
oh snap. Well, it's okay because the second one's pretty surface level. It's like summer action movie. It's not nearly as detail oriented as
it's very early 2000s.
Yes, very much, very Fast and the Furious-esque. So you tell Siri to shut up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think that's all that's pretty much the best. I don't know if you could have said it any other way. I think
Ryan is judging me hardcore.
Well, Ryan's a wordsmith. He's our resident wordsmith, and he's just he can sit there. It's well, I don't know even know what the right word is. It's just like you just let them play their hand. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Ryan, is there anything that you would like to add though? I mean,
No, that's the thing. I don't want to critique too hard because I don't want to have to do it every time. So yeah, that was great.
yeah. Yeah, good stuff. So let's go around the room. Let's say, do we like this movie? Yes or no? I will say the official IMDb score is 7.1. It's a 7.1 score, which I thought was a little low for this movie. Caleb, do you like this movie?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. Rex?
Yeah, I love this movie. I feel like this movie really draws you in and keeps you invested throughout the whole movie. And I even like planned on like, oh, I'll take a little bit of notes on the movie. And I just got sucked in. I totally forgot to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like it.
And Ryan?
Yeah, it's great. Nice kind of a slow burn. It's a much different brand than all the other movies in the series, but it's I like that it feels, especially now looking at the whole franchise, it feels like very much its own thing. And it's you got to think and you got to follow it, but there's also some cool stuff, cool spike stuff in it too, like spycraft things. And yeah, I enjoyed it when it first came out, and I enjoyed it this time.
What's crazy to think about is that I believe, let me check my math here. I believe just 4 years later, there would be another spy movie that would follow this. I'm gonna double check my math here. Okay, no, it's 6 years later. So just 6 years later, there'd be another spy movie that came out alongside the sequel to this movie as well, called The Bourne Identity. And I don't know about you guys, but to me, this seemed like a really like awesome mashup between like James Bond and The Bourne Identity in a lot of ways, with less action, like less fighting. It was more like espionage than the actual action aspect. Tom Cruise doesn't even fire a gun in this movie, not once, which is kind of different than the rest of them. I think there's a lot of gunplay in the ones that follow. But I love this movie. I was shocked to see how well this has aged and how ahead of time it was in terms of technology. So I think one thing that made it resonate really well with me was seeing them communicating on smartwatches like that, and like the technology they were using. I was like, wow, they're not far off actually from how things are now. And it makes you wonder, let's like, well, frick, I wonder if that technology's been around for spies longer. How long has that technology been around for spies? Go ahead, Caleb.
I think it's interesting you saying this. This movie came out in the same time period as like all the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies. And this movie is so much better and higher quality than those, even though those were much higher budget. And those Pierce Brosnan Bonds they're so unrealistic, especially when it comes to spy technology like that. And we look back and you laugh at it today, because it's just like, yeah, that was never going to be a thing. It's super impractical. It doesn't make any sense. It may have seemed cool in 1995 or whatever, but it doesn't make any sense. But this seems so much more realistic because, yeah, it all translates really well. It's dated because it's in 1996, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that's not too far off of how things have actually like aged, and it's kind of believable. But it's such a higher quality movie than any of those Bond movies of that era. And it really stands apart. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think the budget for this movie was like 80 mil is what I saw. Or maybe that's what it grossed. I was looking. I hate IMDb. It always makes it go around. Can someone look that up really fast while we're talking about this? I think that this movie, aside from, go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, budget was 80 million, box office 457.7 million.
That's insane.
It's a good return. That explains why there were more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, and think about it, 1996, that value, I mean, that's like way more, you know what I mean, back then than it is now.
Like $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, maybe not $1 billion, but maybe pretty close, maybe double. I mean, I would say probably more like 800 million, maybe. I mean, that's a banger of a hit right there. I think that this movie is every bit as entertaining and has just as much quality and production value as a lot of stuff that comes out nowadays. And in some aspects might even be better. This is like the performances here, sure, I think Tom Cruise has a little bit of cheese here in his performance some of the time, but most of the time, man, he nails it. I think he really is spot on with the majority of his acting here. And you can tell it makes sense why he's been this character for so long. You can tell that this character really means a lot to Tom Cruise, and he executes that super duper well. Go ahead, Rex.
Just to touch on that, I feel like this character is Tom Cruise's character. Like he gives a lot of the same vibe in a lot of his action movies, I feel like. And you kind of get, I think, pieces of this character that was developed for Mission Impossible. And I really like Tom Cruise, and I just feel like his acting is really, really, really good, and especially good for action movies. So I think he nailed it too.
Yeah, they literally built every other character he ever played off of Ethan Hunt, like Jack Reacher, the Minority Report. Go
I
ahead.
feel like Jack Reacher was different.
Yeah, Jack Reacher, that was tough for him to fill. That's what I was going to say, but he does this way better than he does a Jack Reacher.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I actually liked him as Jack Reacher. And I never read any of the Jack Reacher books, so I didn't have anything to compare it to.
And that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people that were fans of the book were not fans of the movie. I, who went in not having read the books, thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, that's tough if you go in with the image in your head of who the guy is and it doesn't match at all.
Well, when Jack Reacher is supposed to be like 6'5" and just 250 pounds of just muscle, and then you have Tom Cruise in lifts, it's a little different, And yeah, but besides that, anyways,
I don't think it's like a Jeff Goldblum type situation where it's literally he's the same person every movie, but I think there is things in most of his roles where I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of Ethan Hunt there. Like, I think, and that's kind of what I was going at. I think that's what Rex was trying to say too, is I feel like that Ethan Hunt is kind of a building block for a lot of the things that he would go on to do. Because what has he really done besides Mission Impossible and Jack Reacher? Like, big.
He did that Mummy movie that did horribly.
I completely forgot about that.
Well, I feel like
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of
Tomorrow.
Oblivion.
Another one that we reviewed.
Yeah.
What's the racing one? Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
I think that was before.
Top
that was
Gun.
in the 80s.
Top Gun, obviously. Last Samurai.
He did Last Samurai, Vanilla
Jerry
Sky,
Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. He's done a ton of movies.
He has done a ton. He has done a ton of movies.
A few good men.
I just saw.
Magnolia.
I looked on his IMDb, and it says they're currently filming Mission Impossible 7 and 8. It says filming right now, so that's interesting. Anyways, we digress.
There was a clip that just came out of him like yelling at his staff
about COVID. Yeah. Which rightfully so, like, good on them, because people are being idiots. Like, it's like, hey, we want to freaking make a living and you're ruining it. Like, things are never going to go back to normal. Like, yeah, I mean, there was a verbiage that I might have used differently, but I think the reaction was proper. So there's that. Let's kind of talk about, I think, Ethan Hunt really steals the show in a lot of ways. Can we talk about just for a minute how freaking cool Ving Rhames is? He is so good. Like, whenever I was watching him, like whenever they're talking about the job breaking into Langley and stuff like that, he's like, this is the mother of all hacks. And like, Ving Rhames is just kind of like, it's like he's thinking about a snack or something. Cause he's just like, you could tell he's super duper enticed. And I really, really like Ving Rhames, not only in this movie, but in the movies going forward, which I read a fun fact. He's the only character that's ever been in all of them, all of the Mission Impossible movies. So do you guys have any like supporting characters that you really, really enjoyed?
He's my favorite by far. Ving Rhames is.
He's very fun. Yeah. I mean, I like Jean Reno as an actor. I'm a fan of him and other things. This character, there's not a lot to like, but you're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to kind of root for him to fail. But I like Jean Reno as an actor.
Yeah. Remember that movie, The Cleaner? Remember that movie? Did you ever see that?
Mm-mm.
You never did? Yeah, that was I saw it on TV one time. He's like a it was him and Natalie Portman, and I think he basically is like
the professional. You're talking
professional, not the cleaner. Professional. You knew what I was saying. You knew what I was probably trying to say, but I remember seeing it on TV and being like, God, this guy. It's kind of crazy. He didn't have more. I guess he was in it seems like he's been in a lot of movies, actually.
He's in the Pink Panther movie with Steve Martin.
Why do you know that?
Yeah, I completely forgot. I forgot that was even a thing. So thank you for reminding me.
And Beyonce.
Yeah, and Beyonce.
Good movie, by the way.
It is
Underrated.
good. I remember seeing that in theaters, and they played the burger commercial so many times, on TV as like, I would like to buy the damn burger, like that whole thing. So that whenever I finally got to go watch it, it just wasn't even funny to me because I'd seen it so many times. But it is what it is. What are like some like standout moments for you guys in the movie where you're like, this is really freaking cool? Like moments that will kind of stick out in your mind. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, they did a pretty brilliant thing. Before the movie was coming out, none of their advertising told you that his whole team was going to die within the first half hour. So you go in thinking that, with an idea of, okay, cool, it's Mission Impossible. It was an old show. It's a spy film. We're going to watch him and his team work through whatever problem. And then in the first half hour, his entire team is dead, and they didn't hint at it at all. So as a moviegoer, the first time you're sitting in the theater, like, what is happening? And from that point on, you have no idea what's going to happen. If he had just kept that team the whole way through, you could kind of guess at like the spy movie tropes that might happen. But in doing that, they essentially turned it to where you could not really predict what was coming next. And I love that.
That's amazing. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, just to that point, one of the bigger name actors that they had in this movie was Emilio Estevez. Very popular guy back in the time. And he's the first one to die off. They kill off one of their more popular actors.
Yeah, and horribly too.
Horrible, a terrible death, a terrible elevator death. It's such a risky thing to do for like a property that's just getting its start out. And it really works because it catches you off guard. It's really cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Rex.
To go along with them doing that, I feel like you feel kind of like what Ethan Hunt is feeling during that time. And so it makes the following scene to me where he's meeting up with the guy from the CIA. I forgot his name. But when he's meeting him at the restaurant, it makes that scene feel so intense because you're really like in that mindset. You're like trying to process everything that just happened. And I think that scene is one of my favorites, and because it really captures that feeling, and it's also really cool when he like blows up the water.
Yeah, and he does like that jump, really showing off his stunt work. Let's talk about Kittredge for just 1 second. At multiple points during the movie, I was expecting him to say a couple of different lines. The first one being, "Mr. Anderson." I thought he might say that first. Or also, some call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. He had like that whole, like, I thought of those two characters. I'm like, this guy is a menace and he's supposed to be a good guy. But I don't know. I thought his voice was kind of not tropey, but they gave him kind of like the caricature, like bad guy voice a little bit, even though he was a good guy. Go ahead, Ryan.
I think that made him an effective red herring because looking at it back now, it's like you could believe it would be very easy to buy into, okay, this guy's secretly a bad guy, which made it that much more fun when as soon as the accusation was made, Ethan in that moment was like, no.
Yeah.
I love that he didn't even fall. Wasn't tempted even to think that Kittredge was the bad guy. But the way that actor played it could have made it plausible in a cheesier movie. It was just, I felt like a really interesting kind of meta way he portrayed that character. He's one of those guys that doesn't get talked about in the movie, but man, I thought he did a great job.
I agree, and that's kind of what I meant. It struck me as like he's really he was selling it. Is all I meant. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, and it's his performance combined with like the direction and the filmography, specifically in that scene where they're in the aquarium restaurant, and you have all these close-up angles and like weird, like angled shots and all this stuff, and the way that he's talking, it just all works to like building this like just weird sense of dread, and that really puts you in Ethan Hunt's shoes as to what's going on. This realization, like, oh no, I'm about to get set up. Yeah. And it makes you think like this guy's got to know like that he has to be aware of what he's doing is wrong, because it just gives you that feeling. But then like slowly throughout the movie, he kind of redeems himself. But yeah, it's such a really good, just well shot and well acted, well directed, like little setup there that really carries its whole way through the whole movie. It's really cool.
Go ahead, Rex.
Fun fact: he's also in Pink Panther.
That's amazing. I'm glad you brought the camera work. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to comment a similar thing because to my memory anyway, the blocking and the camera angles were fairly standard until that scene in the restaurant, and it's like you have to viscerally experience like his world is now suddenly off center and it's tilting, and I love how those weird camera angles pay off to me in the scene in the vault when you get that upshot with the guy on the computer and Ethan hanging above him, and the way they played with the perspective, it looks like he could reach out and touch the guy. Just really interesting. It's nice when like the guy shooting has a personality that comes through in a viewpoint.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off that too and just say it was super duper ahead of its time. Especially like whenever they're talking, like the camera is down below, which is to get a flattering angle or get it to look good whenever the camera is down below. That's hard. I mean, that's a really hard thing to do as someone, who is attempting to try and do it, for weddings and stuff like that. It's like, God, shooting is hard, and the fact that they're able to get that and execute exactly what they were trying to go for. And I mean, I love how they kind of added, if you notice, there's like a blue hue, while they're in the aquarium, there's a slight blue tint to the screen, and little things like that, little details really immerse you in whatever scene that you're in. And I think that was really good filmmaking, in general. Brian De Palma is the director of Mission Impossible. And I was looking here at some of the other stuff that he has directed. And man, the only thing that I'm really seeing is Mission Impossible, of course. And man, I'm not seeing a lot else that is familiar to me. So, kind of crazy. Usually direction is something we talk about quite a bit on the show. And I don't really know. I'm not really familiar with a lot of his other work. I'm glad he made this movie though. So Ryan,
well,
he
doesn't do action movies. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But,
no, that's fine.
He doesn't do action movies or spy movies, which to me made it interesting because this movie is decidedly not an action movie. I mean, there are a couple of action scenes, but I thought that was, and I remembered that, but going back to it and watching it now in the context of the rest of the series was interesting because it's like, yeah, this is not an action movie. It is a slow burn spy intrigue film. And it seems to be to me, and looking at his filmography, I was trying to look for common threads. And I think that's one of them is like the slow burn simmering stuff that has pops of, more bombastic and dramatic things. But I was a really interesting choice for that type of movie, and man, it paid off.
One thing that they did really, really well, and with the story, and really smart, Ryan, you're a writer, you're familiar with, show me, don't tell me, right? And they did that in this movie so much to where it would make sense that if you're kind of immature and not really following along, it'd be easy, as a young person, whenever they see Ethan kind of putting everything together, whenever he's talking to John, and he's like, oh, like this is why Kittredge would do it. But whatever he's visualizing John Voight doing it. Or what was it? What was the bad guy's name? Jim. He's visualizing Jim do it. It'd be easy to like not be able to keep up with that. But the fact that they showed us that and let us know there's 20 minutes left in the movie at this point. Let us know that Ethan knows that Jim is the bad guy. Then we know how he's thinking moving forward. And it's like, okay, how is this going to pan out? Kind of like what Ryan was saying, like, where is this movie going to take me? Also, same thing. They do this in pretty much every Mission Impossible movie. They tell you what the plan is. They tell you what they're going to do. Or they tell you like what the obstacle is. It's like, we got to do this, this, and this, but then they don't continue the explanation. They just go ahead and seamlessly show you, segue right into showing you how they're going to execute that. Like the plan with the firemen, that was pretty smart. And I loved how they implemented, that particular story beat. I love how they were able to nearly perfectly execute what they were trying to do. and still add a little bit of humor, like the guy that's got to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. It's relatable, I think, is what is pretty much every scenario is relatable, and it makes us feel for Ethan Hunt and his team. And I love it. I think it's really well done overall in terms of showing, not telling. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that whole scene in Langley, I love how they set it up by telling you how tough it's going to be. In a lot of like heist movies, they're going to tell you how tough it's going to be, but then they're going to show you, well, how they're going to combat all of that, how they're going to plan around it. They don't do that at all in this. They just tell the audience, this is how difficult it is. And here you go. We're in the middle of it and it's happening. So you don't expect anything going in. You don't know how in the world they're going to get around all these safety systems and what they're going to do. And you get to actually experience that and watch it happen. And I can't think of any other like movie where it's like that, where there's, how difficult it's going to be, but you don't have any expectation or know how any of it's going to go down. And that's kind of a really cool little experience there.
Yeah. And what's interesting, sorry, Ryan, what's interesting too is earlier in the movie, we do get that. Jim's all, okay, Ethan, you're going to take point. You're going to do this, this, and this, whatever. It's very surface level. It's like, and then we, as the audience, we're intrigued. That's like the primer for us as the audience. We're like, okay, so-and-so, okay, I'm kind of piecing this together. But then since we know the plan, it's even bigger whenever it doesn't go according to plan. We, like Rick was saying, we are in his shoes, basically. So then they have fun with us in the middle of the movie, and it's like, okay, here we go. Like, like you were saying, Caleb, on to the next thing. We know what the obstacles are. Let's go into it. Go ahead, Ryan.
That scene, the vault scene, to me is proof of the cultural penetration that this movie had. Because I mean, how many movies in one way or another made a callback to that scene or did their own version of it or a reference of it? I mean, that did a similar thing to like what the Matrix did with bullet time and things. It imprinted that on on how society looked at movies, and it became a trope that ended up being used later, which is not easy to do and doesn't happen often.
Yeah, and I would say this might be the best produced or maybe even best directed in terms of performances, and how all the performances are really, really good. But I feel like this one doesn't really get enough love personally. It's probably the least popular one, but it might be the best one out of all the Mission Impossible movies, potentially, which is crazy. It's crazy to think that is, and that they're, like you were saying, the least favorite has those tropes, and it's a super interesting story that comes with this movie and what it's done for action. You think about it, this is a Cruise Wagner production, I believe. I believe Tom Cruise is a producer on this movie, is he not? So from 1996 onward, there's kind of a danger here for Tom Cruise. He's like, okay, I'm gonna be that guy. Do you think that might have held him back from being taken seriously in some ways, just kind of as a sidebar? There was always a list, throw your hand up if you need to, but there was always a list of people that were like, okay, they fit into this category and they're never going to win an Oscar. So Tom Cruise got put into that category for the longest time. Like Leonardo DiCaprio was in that category. They just kept getting nominated, and they would try and take some more serious roles, try and go for that Oscar, and things would happen. It's like I don't know if it was just not being able to be taken seriously or what, but whenever I think of Tom Cruise, I think of quintessential action star. I don't really think of serious actor. You know what I mean? Is that, and that might be mean. That's not a bad thing though. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know what goes on in his head. I've never gotten the impression that he was chasing the Oscar. Leo was chasing the Oscar. But yeah, I think that it ended up leading to maybe Leo choosing some movies for that and maybe not choosing the best movies. Not that he hasn't chosen some great movies, he has, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe Tom Cruise is he's bigger than awards, really. And I kind of feel like success is its own reward with that. He never seemed to me like someone who was taking roles just looking for acclaim.
Clout. Yeah. Go ahead, Rex.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like too, he more cares about and enjoys just making movies and the whole craft part of it. That's kind of the vibe I get from him. And I think that's what I kind of like about him, is like he's really just into making the movies, he wants to make, and them being and the success just follows that.
Yeah, that's totally true. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, and kind of along that line, Tom Cruise has had a longer career than like Leonardo DiCaprio because he's older. He doesn't necessarily, you wouldn't almost think he's older just looking at him because he's aged really well, but he's been doing movies, since the early 80s. And he's gone through phases where he's done various different things, whether it's like, kind of teenage type movies, 80s action movies. He was doing dramatic movies and more dramatic roles in the 90s. And then he seemed to really hit his stride after he's already been doing this for 15, 20 years in these action movies. And you can tell that's just what he enjoys doing. And that's what he loves to do. And he's like, well, I've been doing this for this long already. I'm going to keep doing what I love doing. I love doing my own stunts. I love coming up with these cool like ideas and making them happen. And that's what I'm going to do because that's what I enjoy doing. And I think that kind of shows his age. And just kind of how experienced he is in Hollywood. He's like, I'm just going to enjoy this and do what I want to do. And I think you kind of see that with his filmography.
On a lower scale, you don't question if a Mission Impossible movie is going to be, fun. Like in comparison to like a Marvel movie, you go to a Marvel movie and it's like, okay, yeah, like that, it's almost always enjoyable, right? And I think about something like X-Men, right, where we just got done talking about that. And I'm not trying, like, everyone's like, oh God, no. If they put a new X-Men movie out in the next 5 years, I'm going to be very skeptical. But guess what? If they put out another 4 or 5 Mission Impossible movies, I know for a fact I am going to have a great time. And I also know for a fact that they are going to make a bunch of money off of them. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, Marvel owns X-Men again, so if they were to put out another movie, I would have more confidence. I think they seem inclined to let it sit for a while, though. Like, give everybody palate cleansers for other things. There's no rush to bring the X-Men back.
Yeah.
That seems to me what they're doing, especially now that they have said they're going to do Fantastic Four. They haven't said it this way, but do it the right way this time.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling they'll want to nail that and get them as part of the MCU before they ever even think about the X-Men, especially when you've got the Inhumans and other things that you can deal with. That you don't have to go the X-Men route anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, with Tom Cruise, though, it's got to be a great feeling knowing, though, that you're going to make a ton of money, and like you, Caleb and Rex were saying, have a lot of fun doing it. How many people? He's like 60, right? So how many people his age are doing anything close to that? I mean, I wouldn't want to fight him. You know what I mean? I'm pretty like I mean, he
Pretty short too.
Yeah, I mean, but still, it's those wiry guys you got to watch out for. Just ask Mikey.
I can only think of Liam Neeson. He's in his 60s and still doing action movies.
Yeah, that's true. But even that, I don't know. I think Tom Cruise just has a pedigree that is just kind of undeniable at this point. And while I do think it does kind of fall into like a tropey thing, it kind of falls into like the Fast and the Furious mentality a little bit of how much bigger and better can we make this without losing quality and like losing the effect that these movies have. But yeah, I think Mission Impossible is a great first edition. Is there anything we want to talk about before we move on to score this bad boy? Go ahead, Caleb. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, I was just going to say, just one thing I do appreciate about this movie a lot, and I wish more movies did this, but obviously I just don't think they all can. But this movie just feels like every single shot, every single scene, every single line is there for a reason. It is a slow burn of a movie, but it moves along quickly. You're never bored in this movie because every single thing has a place, has a meaning. And because of that, it moves quickly and it's just enhances the quality. There's no filler really in this movie. And that is very appreciated when a lot of movies do they have filler just to fill runtime, it seems like at times. And this movie does not have that at all. And that's one of the reasons why I like this movie so much. It's just every shot, every line, everything has a specific purpose and it makes it great.
Rex?
I was just gonna say I don't think we touched on any negatives. But
Yeah, that's true. We've been gushing about the movie for a while. Does anyone have anything negative to say?
I'll start off since I brought it up. But yeah, I think the only real negative that I feel like a lot of the Mission Impossible movies have are kind of like when Caleb's trying to describe what happened in the movie. You can get a little lost at times,
Yeah.
and you do have to really like pay attention. And if you miss like 10 minutes, that could be something pretty crucial to you understanding what's going to happen in the end of the movie. And that's not always a negative, but for your average movie viewer, that might not appeal to them. But that's the only negative I really had.
Well said, Ryan.
It's pretty light, but there were two scenes where I thought the style was a little bit like they kind of went more with style and slickness over clarity. And I felt like those two scenes kind of suffered for it. So the first one being when they're in the restaurant with Kittredge, and he's basically describing how he knows there's another IMF team out there, and it's flashing back between him seeing them at the party and pointing them out at the restaurant right there. I know it's meant to be slick and stylized and fast, but the way that it's cut and everything, and the way it doesn't to me make it clear, especially on first viewing of like, okay, he's drawing the parallel of all these people he's pointing out he's now seen in two places. You catch it with one or two of them, but I noticed this time there was, I think, two team members from that other IMF team that when he shows you them, you see him from the back. So it doesn't really help you. So I felt like the clarity was kind of sacrificed for style there. And I feel like it happened the same way when he's talking to Jim and he figures out that Jim is the bad guy. It's a very cool idea, and I could see writing it in a screenplay to say, okay, while this guy is claiming that this other guy is the bad guy, our hero is figuring out that his friend is actually the bad guy. But again, I think the editing and the way it played out on screen kind of sacrificed clarity. I even sat there thinking, okay, well, if he had just said one extra line here, or you'd had Jim say this, just a couple extra words, it would have been crystal clear exactly what was going on both sides of the table. But it was a little too slick for its own good. Those are really my only two criticisms with those scenes.
Caleb.
Yeah, I think if you were going to break this movie into like three memorable parts, especially when it comes to the action, you would break it into the beginning when the team gets taken out. You would break it into the break-in at Langley, which is iconic. And then you break it down. The third one would be on the train, the helicopter. And the weakest of those three is the last one with the train and the helicopter. I would appreciate, I don't know, it would make more sense if that the last one should be the best one, I think. And it almost seems like it just kind of fizzles out towards the end in quality. But even then, it's not that big or noticeable. It's kind of a little thing that's always irked me a little bit about this movie. The other thing is the music or the score isn't always great. It was kind of jarring at times. Not the theme. The theme is fantastic. But the other music in general can be kind of distracting in moments and a little all over the place with what they're trying to do. But I mean, it's a pretty minor thing.
Rex.
I agree with Caleb about that last scene too. And I think to kind of make it a little bit more over the top, that's maybe why they went kind of unrealistic with the helicopter going into the tunnel. And then there's some unrealistic things that happen in this movie, like the explosion from the gum on the helicopter like propels him back onto the train. And I think that could be a type of negative too, because this movie feels pretty realistic throughout the whole thing, and then you get just some weird things like that thrown in. But then they've taken that and kind of put that in like all the Mission Impossibles now. So it's kind of like their thing to do something a little, a little over the top. But so I'm not necessarily sure that's a negative, but it took me out of it a little bit and more in my head thinking like, that's weird.
It feels a little comic book, a little bit. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, we did kind of have an unconventional first chapter, an unconventional middle chapter, but a conventional third chapter or third act, I should say. So yeah, I don't know if that was originally it or they felt a little bit of pressure to sort of give a Hollywood climax or Hollywood finale. But yeah, the last part definitely is the least memorable part of it. Also, the thing about the score, there was only one moment I really picked up on it, and I couldn't even tell you what scene. But suddenly it was like, oh, for 30 seconds, we're in a romantic comedy. The score did not match at all. The rest of the time, I didn't really notice it. But that time, I was like, well, that doesn't fit at all.
Yeah,
that was funny.
I agree. I actually have a lot, a little bit to piggyback off of all of what you guys are saying. I think for the most part, the score works. There's some areas where it definitely doesn't, kind of like what Caleb and Ryan were saying. One thing that I didn't, Ryan said something about those, the scene in the restaurant, and then also the scene whenever he's starting to figure out the bad guy. I think the scene in the restaurant definitely needed work. I appreciated some of the, the angles with the conversations between Kittredge and Ethan. But like whenever they are cutting to the other agents, it is kind of hard to follow. There's even one scene where he's talking, the camera pans on someone else, like focuses on someone, and then they move to the other person. It's like, oh, like I didn't, who was that? You know what I mean? It can be kind of hard to keep track. I personally think whenever he finds out that Jim's the bad guy, I thought that scene was awesome. But for like we said before, like a casual moviegoer that isn't having a critical eye, like I think about someone like my mom watching this movie right at the time and being like, what, like and no offense to my mother, of course, but yeah, I think it could be missed, from the casual moviegoer potentially, and that is part of what we try and talk about is how is that going to translate to your casual moviegoer that doesn't watch movies and talk about it on a podcast. Also, two more things. I don't think there's times where John Voight feels like an old man, and then all of a sudden at the end of the movie, he's supposed to be awesome and like this super bad, like he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? Does not work at all. Never worked for me. And I know he has experience and he's much bigger than Tom Cruise and all this other stuff. But ever since I was a little kid, I never bought it. Go ahead, Ryan.
I kind of saw that as his long con. I think he was. And I could be giving it too much credit or reading too much into it. I kind of felt like in the first part of the movie, what he was a little bit of a long con on them. It was a little bit of an act. He was kind of acting like the elder statesman, the older, calmer guy. But then at the end, when the hammer drops, we find, oh, he's a lot more capable, and definitely not past his prime, not as much past his prime as we thought. I felt that was sort of like, it made me think of The Prestige, where they talked about those magicians who would live the one trick. Like that's kind of how I felt about that. But again, they didn't say that, so I may just be reading into it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, I totally think. I mean, that makes a lot of sense from Ryan. But seeing John Voight in tactical gear does not work for me.
He's got a sneak suit on. He's got a sneaking suit on. What's going on? Yeah, no, that was one thing. And then another thing we talk about is like being too like slick for its own good, or like a little too I don't know what the word is, like high tech or whatever. The whole Job thing, with the Bible and like the keywords and like he was sending it to all these different places. I wish there was a way that they could have made that more clear. It's like, what database is he in? And maybe that's part of it is, it's supposed to kind of have a little bit of a hieroglyphic type vibe to it. And like, there was just a scene where I guess it is like 3 or 4 in the morning where he's like typing and you see him like wiping his eyes and he's like, oh God, I'm so tired. And it goes to it again. Like he's been on the computer for a long time, but it doesn't look like he's been on the computer for a long time. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Rex.
Yeah. It's like, that was in 96. So like they didn't know how to send emails correctly.
Yeah.
I saw that. I said, that is not an email address you're sending that to.
Exactly.
That's going nowhere.
Yeah. Go ahead, Caleb.
My favorite part of that too, he's doing like keyword searches and just shows how the internet is kind of changed, but he puts one in, and it's just Job or Job, and nothing comes up. Like now that's like one of the main uses of the internet is just finding jobs. Like now that you type in job and you're gonna get 1,000. He types in job, nothing. And he types in Bible and it's like everything, Book of Job, and then there's just multitudes of forums in various languages of people talking on the internet about the Book of Job, just exclusively the Book of Job.
In the Mission Impossible universe.
So I love the idea that in 1996, the internet and people on the internet are just talking about the Book of Job and not about helping each other find jobs at all. It's so funny.
It doesn't work for me. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, in that sense, this made me think of two other older movies. It made me think of Hackers and The Net, both of which were like, you got a little too specific in what you were portraying. Yeah. So it doesn't, you kind of lose a little bit of that timeless quality, which is hard to avoid in a spy movie. And you're supposed to be showing off technology. But, looking back 25 years, it is kind of funny. I actually was sitting there watching and thinking, man, in another 25 years, when we're watching Mission Impossible 18, will we come back to Mission Impossible 7 and laugh at the smartphones and not the implant in your head or something like that?
Right.
It's
and I mean, I think for the most part, it nails. And here's the thing: you could have had the same idea, and they do it multiple times where you see him typing in the password on the thing and doing the thing. Give him the opportunity to do that. You're literally writing it to be so complicated when it doesn't have to be so complicated. Like, and I think about back then, it's like, how could you go? It's like all you need to know is that the keyword of Job, he somehow is connected to that, and that's how he gets connected to Max, to where Max is like, oh, whatever. And then that whole thing ends up not even really mattering that much. And then they revisit it again. He's like typing Bible verses again later on in the movie. And I'm like, why does it matter? I don't understand, and maybe it's just my small brain that can't comprehend it. But that was just one thing that I didn't care for a lot. So I don't know. I might be alone in that, but that was just another nitpick. So is there anything else before we go on to score this bad boy? I think we've touched all the details. Our review was just about as detailed as Caleb's synopsis, is all I have to say.
Oh, jeez.
But it was half as long.
Yeah. I'm just kidding, Caleb. I love you. Caleb, starting with you, what are you going to give Mission Impossible?
This might seem high. It's definitely higher than the IMDb, but I'm giving it a 9. I mean, I think this movie just really works. It ages really well. I do think who knows? We still have to watch the other movies, but I think this is probably the best one in the series. It's a really good start off to a series. And it's just a super solid movie. Super, super good.
I think that's a very fair score. Rex?
I'm going to give it an 8.759.
I'm going to kill you. You can't do that here.
No, I'm going to give it, it's an 8 for me, but I'm kind of with Caleb. Like it's almost a 9 for me. It's like really close. It hits a lot of good things that I like in the movie, and it's just a solid movie overall to me. I do like a few of the other ones, maybe a little better, but won't get too much into that. But it's an 8 for me.
Save it. Okay, no, fair scores all around so far. Ryan, what about you?
I'll give it an 8. Yeah, it's my second favorite of the whole franchise. But even though it's my second favorite, I would say as far like story wise, it's probably the most intricate and the most capably done. I really enjoyed it. I mean, the nitpicks we have are very minor.
Yeah.
And really only stand out when you're looking to have a critical discussion about it.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It holds up. And it's one of those that made its mark on cinema. So, points for that too.
Well, there you have it. What's your first favorite, by the way? Let me guess. Is it Mission Impossible 3?
Yep. Good call.
I knew it.
3's a good one. 3's a good one.
That might be my favorite one too, now that I think about it.
For a multitude of reasons that I'll save when we get to it.
But
that's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That's probably my top reason that's my favorite one. There are other things I really love, but he to me is easily the best bad guy they've had in the whole series.
He's one of the best bad guys of all time. Like
Mhm.
he's so it's
Okay.
so underrated how good. Well, we're gonna save it, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta
Yeah.
we get to Mission Impossible 3. We've watched a lot of movies on this podcast. And each time I sit down to do a new movie, I think of a better way to try and talk about it. And I think of a better way to try and approach it. And I'm always anticipating what you guys are going to say. And it's super interesting because I can almost on the dot call what you guys are going to rate it at this point. So I'm going to throw the question on to you. What do you guys think I'm going to give this movie? Because I know you probably do the same thing. Caleb, what do you think I'm giving this movie?
Probably like a 4.5.
I'm not Mikey. God. Rex, what do you think?
I think you're giving it a 9.
Ryan?
I'm gonna go counterintuitive. I'm gonna say you're gonna give it a 7.
Wow. Okay, you guys don't know me as well. Rex is apparently my best friend. I love this movie. I this is my favorite time I think I've ever watched it, and I'm watching this thinking I'm trying to place today's standards on it. And aside from practical effects, like there's that scene whenever Emilio Estevez is going up in the thing, and like you can clearly see that that's like a wax doll, and it's like and it's like, oh, like it's just super cheesy. You know what I mean? But I think this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I think this is a great movie, and I think it will continue to age even better. Aside from a few things like the whole Job nonsense, whatever. And I think it does a really good job of kind of paving the way for the rest of the franchise, and Mission Impossible 2 kind of goes a little away from that, but MI3 I feel like is kind of a updated version of the first movie in a lot of ways. It's more of that like spy espionage rather than the action adventure type thing going on. But yeah, I'll tell you this. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for a review series outside of Star Wars. I'm really excited to see where these reviews go and like what we say about them, because having a more complex subject matter, I think, is going to make for more interesting conversation. So wannabes, buckle up. We're in it for the long haul. We got another freaking 7 months ahead of us. No, it won't take us that long. But Caleb gave it a 9.
Yeah.
Caleb, me and you are brothers. Caleb gave it a 9. Rex gave it an 8.
Others.
Ryan gave it an 8, and I gave it a 9. So high praise across the board. It's a shame Mikey couldn't be here. God rest his soul, but maybe next time. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our review for Mission Impossible 1996. Look at us go. We're going to be doing these movies. We kind of have a new schedule now, semi-new schedule, where we're going to do 2 weeks on. We'll do the off week, and then the last week of the month will be a break, usually showcasing another one of our shows, like the Midnight Run, like Nostalgia Trip, like retro reviews, who would win, stuff like that. So definitely be on the lookout for that. In an effort to create and keep consistent quality content, I have decided as the executive producer of this production that it's best to just hold on to it. Hold on to the majority of things that we have and just release it hearsay. You know what I mean? So you gotta stick around if you want to hear all of it. And we're going to try and make the best decisions we can with the content we have. Be on the lookout, saving the housekeeping for the end of the show. Be on the lookout for the newest retro review that's going to be coming out. I think at the end of this month, I do believe Jurassic Park drops, featuring one Caleb Henley and one Rex Tucker. So be on the lookout for that. If you are not a Patreon subscriber, that's fine. Be on the lookout, because our newest Who Would Win is going to be dropping. Who would win, Darth Vader or Wanda Maximoff? Not Scarlet Witch. We're not going full Scarlet. She's still Wanda. She's very early on Wanda. That was the specific match that was presented. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be an interesting conversation. It's probably going to rattle some people. Probably going to get some people triggered. We'll see. I don't know. I'm ready. I'm ready for the hate. Bullets. I'm glue, and you're bullets, and you just bounce off. Or that's not how that works. And then also we're going to have another retro review in another month with Caleb and Rex, which is the Goonies, staying kind of in the Spielberg sphere, I guess, kind of. Anyways, so that's what you can look forward to. And I'm just super excited for the next few months of content in addition to everything that we're doing with the main podcast. I think for the off week this month, we are going to be talking about Mystery Men. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a fun discussion. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. It'll be fun to kind of go back through after the 10, 15 years plus of superhero movies that have come out and see how this movie, where that kind of stacks up. So super excited. Lots of cool things.
I don't even know what it is.
Dude, it's so good. It's one of the you just got to watch it. All right, we're gonna talk about it next week. It's gonna be great on the off week. I think that about wraps it up for us though here on the Wannabe Critic podcast. It's always sad. It's always a sad thing, but I know Caleb's an hour ahead. He's probably wanting to go to sleep. I got video games to play. It's gonna be great. So Caleb, where can people find you?
At Chief in NY18. So check me out there on Twitter.
There you go. Rex, where can people find you?
At WRECKS90 on Twitter. And yeah, you can find all my other stuff on there.
As well as, you the co-host of Midnight Run. You know what I mean?
Yes, check out Midnight Run. We're going to be, getting back in the groove of things. I've been busy moving and doing adult stuff. So
yeah, you're an old man. You're 30. I mean, your best years are behind you, bro. Sorry to tell you that. Ryan, where can people find you?
At Ryan Dalton on Instagram, at iRyanDalton on Twitter. And my book series, The Time Shift Trilogy, is out there, still available for purchase because it's a few years old now. You'll most easily find it electronically, but yeah, it's out there. If you like sci-fi mysteries and time travel, go get them.
There you have it. And I am Gabriel Fast, your fearless leader / host. It's been a great show, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sticking around, and thank you as the listener for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I am Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Adios.
Bye.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to do it, Ryan. Bye. Also,
I almost did, but I'm saving it for special occasions.
Okay. All right. Just special occasions. Have a good one, everybody. Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.